Welcome to Front Office Pros. We are in week 14 of the fantasy football season. Joe and I are here to help you make the right decisions so you punch your ticket to the playoffs. We're going to give you 8 players that are going to boom in week 14.
Hike! My first boom player is going to be quarterback Dak Prescott to help you punch your ticket into the playoffs. And he's a guy that's already been helping you win your matchups if you had him and been playing him. And this week he gets the Eagles defense, which is the worst ranked defense against the pass. And since September of 2021, Dak has not thrown less than 3 touchdown passes against the Eagles. And just in week 9 in Philadelphia, he went for 374 yards and 3 touchdowns. But this time he gets to face the Eagles at home, where Dallas Cowboys offense and Dak Prescott do a lot better. And this is against a defense that we just saw. Brock Purdy last week nearly had a perfect passer rating and was threw for 314 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's super impressive about Dak Prescott. I didn't know that he's thrown for more than 3 touchdowns over these past few matchups. He's been a great player all year. He's going to be the rest. I mean, if you had Dak, he might have been your league winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going on to my first boom, let's stick with that game, Joe. I'm going to go with tight end Jake Ferguson. Look, in the last game against the Philadelphia Eagles, Ferguson had 10 targets, 7 receptions, and 91 receiving yards and a touchdown. The question is, could he do it again? I think he will. For the Eagles, Zach Cunningham is out, and then they just waived Christian Ellis. That means the newcomer, Shaquille Leonard, or formerly Darius Leonard, is set for a prime role. Well, I'm not so sure that'll be so great because Shaq Leonard, honestly, to me, is a name at this point, and has had a 56.4 coverage rating according to PFF. He just really hasn't been the same player since recovering from that injury that he sustained. So I think Ferguson, like you said, Joe, I think Dak Prescott is going to do really well. If he's going to give out 3, I think one of them is going to go to Ferguson.
Yeah, it definitely could. I mean, we know at least one of those is going to CD. The other 2 is kind of up for grabs. Cooks has been hot of late. But to your point about Shaq Leonard, I mean, in the coverages where his weakness has been, and even the Colts fell in favor of EJ Speed over there to cover. So I definitely like Ferguson's matchup. So my next boom player is going to be running back Joe Mixon. And after some disappointment earlier this year, Joe Mixon has started to come alive, and finally the Bengals have been deciding to actually utilize this guy and get him some touches. Mixon is coming off his best performance last week, and he also had his most amount of opportunities with a total of 25 touches. He had 19 carries for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns, also added 6 receptions for 49 yards. And it seems like with Burrow now out and Jake Browning in, that the Bengals want to lean on Mixon in this offense and get the run game more involved, take less pressure off of Browning. And Mixon has the advantage of a great matchup this week, playing the Colts, and who are 25th against the run.
Yeah, this is a definite boom play, and you've had a lot of Mixon. I think you had high hopes for him. I like the idea that he didn't really have anybody behind him. I always like when a running back controls that running back room. He has nobody competing for opportunities, so I like that call.
Yeah, it was interesting. Chase Brown did get a little bit of work last week, but Mixon still had 25 touches.
So my next target is going to be running back Bijan Robinson. Now, on paper, this does not look like a good matchup for Bijan facing the Buccaneers run defense. But, over the past 2 weeks, they've allowed Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Taylor to be RB1s in their respective weeks. Devin White and Levante David, both starting linebackers, are dinged up. I'm not sure if they're going to be back or not, but even if they are, they're not going to be at full strength. It's going to open up holes for Bijan Robinson over the past 3 weeks. Bijan has had opportunities of 23, 22, and then 24. I've had my fair share of gripes when it comes to Arthur Smith. You know that, Joe, and his play calling and utilization of his players. This is a huge divisional game. I think they're going to need to rely on him big time in order to secure the win. I think he's going to smash this week.
Yeah, he definitely could. And, I think another part of that is last 2 weeks, Vita Vea just hasn't been that run stopper either and filling gaps. He hasn't been getting the tackles. So, with those linebackers out and Vea not really taking control of the center, this definitely could be a matchup for him to exploit.
So are you enjoying this video so far? Well, if you are, show your support to our new channel by hitting the subscribe button and liking this video. We'll be creating videos all NFL season long, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store.
So my next player is going to be wide receiver DJ Moore. And since Fields returned from his injury, DJ Moore has been an absolute smash. And he gets to face the Lions that are ranked 22nd against the pass. Early in the season, Lions didn't look like a good defensive matchup and were a defense to avoid, but of late they've been giving up big plays in the passing game, and the Lions secondary is definitely the weak part of that defense. And DJ Moore was able to face the Lions in Week 11. It was on the road, but he still had 7 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown.
I believe that was the game when Justin Fields came back from injury, right? That was their first game together.
That was the first game back, and right away, DJ Moore was just inserted and able to perform like he was earlier.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why that's not going to continue again. Can lightning strike twice? That's the question. You saw him do it once. Can they do it a second time? But the on paper, it makes it a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, even the week before the bye, he had 11 receptions and over 100 yards in that game. So with 2 games back with Justin Fields, he's just been an plug and play guy.
So my next boom player is going to be wide receiver Gabe Davis going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. Look, Gabe Davis is a definition of a yo-yo, right? One game he's up, one game he's down. But I believe he's in store for a boom week this week, and I think it's worth starting him in your lineups, especially if you could consider him as a flex play here. Last year against the Chiefs, he ended up being the wide receiver 13 on the week with 3 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown, and we all know what he did against the Chiefs when they played him in the playoffs when he had 3 touchdowns. Look for L'Jarius Sneed to, I think, shadow coverage Stephon Diggs, which I think is going to open up opportunities for Gabe. So I think this is a big game for the Bills. They got to win it. I think, Joe, you've talked about this before. The games where they involve Gabe Davis, they are way more on the end of winning than they are losing when he's involved in the game plan. Yeah,
that definitely is correct. I mean, obviously, the last game they had against the Eagles would kind of go against that. But up until that point, a big part of their wins was getting Gabe Davis involved, and a lot of their losses, you could translate it to just him not being involved at all in the offense. So my last player here, Steve, I'm going to go with Courtland Sutton. And Sutton's surprisingly been a pretty consistent player this year, especially after his down year last year, with Nathaniel Hackett and the Broncos just trying to figure things out. But this year, he scored a touchdown in all but 3 games this year. He has also scored a touchdown in every single road game this year. And this week, he gets the 30th ranked defense against wide receivers. And it's on the road versus the Chargers. And I think it's safe to say that Sutton will get another touchdown this week. And he's clearly the number 1 target in this offense. And really, really has been all year.
Yeah, you already see the reliance and the trust that Russ and Courtland Sutton have. You saw even when Sutton came out and said, like, hey, apologize to my quarterback. And Stephen A. Smith was like, get out of here with that nonsense. But, that adds chemistry for those guys. And, I believe it's a pattern, right? It's not just a coincidence. We keep seeing him rack up touchdowns. Can't see why that's going to change. It's a great matchup.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my last boom player for Week 14 is going to be wide receiver Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper left last week mid-game with a concussion, but before he left, I think he made quite the impression. With only playing 32% of the snaps, he netted 5 targets, 3 receptions, and 34 receiving yards. Had Cooper not left the game, I believe he would have been in for a huge day because Flacco was looking his way quite often. Jacksonville has recently been torched by Jake Browning, of all people, and C.J. Stroud, and they currently are 27th best matchup for opposing wide receivers. If Amari Cooper does not play with the concussion, I like Elijah Moore. He had 12 targets, I believe, so I think he's the replacement as that number 1 target in that offense, so I'd roll him. But if Cooper plays, which I think he will, I like Cooper this week.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, with Joe Flacco coming back. I do think, though, I do think there is a chance that Joe Flacco won't be the quarterback, but we'll see.
Who do you think it's going to be? Dorian Thompson-Robinson?
Possibly, because, DTR, before he got the concussion, they had him on Flacco on the practice squad, and they had chosen DTR as their quarterback. So we'll see you there. But if they do stick with Joe Flacco, though, I mean, we saw him boost up the wide receivers for the Jets last year, and we saw it right in this first matchup against the Rams. Now he gets to face the Jags. I think this is a good call.
That would change things for sure. And if that's the case, so let's hedge our bets in case that does happen, Joe. I'd say then we'll replace all two of those guys and go David Njoku. David Njoku has been heavily targeted when Dorian Thompson-Robinson's in the game. So I would choose him because, like I said, Jacksonville has been susceptible to the pass. So I would go with Njoku. I would say if it's Flacco, go Cooper. If Cooper's not there, go Moore. And if Dorian Thompson-Robinson's starting, go with Njoku.
Yeah, I like it.
Fair enough?
Yeah, fair enough. And, we even saw Bengals tight ends have some success Monday night against the Jags as well. So I think that's a good call.
So that was 8 players that are going to boom in Week 14. We're going to help you punch your ticket into the playoffs. We will be back next week for Week 1 of the playoffs, which is a big deal, Joe. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.